The buzz on the table wasn't just a sound. It was a violation. In my world, notifications are scheduled. They obey rules. This one was red. A priority alert. I was 20 miles from home in a glass-walled conference room, trying to sell a $200,000 peace of mind. The client was nodding. I was closing. Then the buzz. I excused myself, my stomach tightening. I stood in the sterile hallway, the air conditioning humming. Motion sensor, master bedroom. 2:14 p.m. Active. My pulse didn't race. My mind processed. I swiped to the main dashboard. Front door log, no entry since 7:03 a.m. That was me, leaving. Back door, locked. Windows, secure. I checked the indoor sensors. The cat, an 8-pound variable I had accounted for, was downstairs. His tag registered by the food bowl sensor. This wasn't the cat. My system doesn't make mistakes. 2:14 p.m. Wednesday. She should be at the Patterson site, digging up old shrubs. I called her. She answered on the second ring with a breathless hey. The audio was sharp, crystal clear. Too clear for an open-air garden. Her voice was thin. I asked her where she was. She gave a short, brittle laugh and asked where I thought she was. She claimed to be at the Pattersons, standing in a foot of mud, calling the garden a disaster and questioning why I was even calling. A clean, cold line drew itself in my head. The data said she was in the bedroom. She said she was 20 miles away. One of them was lying. And my system is just code. It doesn't report feelings. It only reports facts. I kept my own voice flat, said okay, just checking in. I told her I'd be home late. She replied with an okay and an I love you before the line clicked. I didn't go back to the client. I was in my car in 2 minutes. I didn't speed. I set the cruise control to exactly 65. But my eyes were on the phone mounted to the dash. 2:20 p.m. Motion still active. 2:30 p.m. Active. My mind replayed her voice. Breathless. The system requires significant movement. A cat walking through might trigger it once. But active for 15, 20, 30 straight minutes? That's not a cat. That's exertion. I parked a street over. I don't know why. I entered through the garage, keypad entry. The house was silent. I smelled nothing. No cologne. No unfamiliar perfume. Just the faint lemon scent of the cleaning spray she liked. I went upstairs. The bedroom door was open. It was empty. The bed was perfectly made. Not just made, but military perfect. The comforter was taut, the pillows fluffed, the decorative throw precisely angled. As if for a magazine shoot. Or for inspection. I checked the closet. I checked the bathroom. The air was still. She came home at 6. She was, just as she'd said, muddy. Her boots were by the door. She stretched, saying it had been quite a day. I just stood in the kitchen, holding my phone. I told her she was home today. At 2:14 p.m. She stopped. She looked at me, not with guilt, but with pity. That was worse. She asked, "Oh Sam, what did my little system say now?" I told her what it said. That she was in the bedroom. I reminded her that I called, and she told me she was at the Patterson site. She sighed. It was a masterpiece of annoyance. She blamed the cat. It was the cat, Sam. She insisted she was at the Patterson site, but had run home for 5 minutes to grab the blueprints she forgot. She didn't think she needed to report her every move. She was good. That was a new data point. A very good liar. She then accused me of tracking her again. I ignored her accusation and stated the fact. The sensor was active for 30 minutes. She threw up her hands, saying she didn't know. Maybe he was chasing a fly. She finished by accusing me of suffocating her. She pushed past me. I let her go. I just stared at the wall. She said she ran home for blueprints. But my system didn't log the front door opening. Not once. She thought the argument was over. For her, it was. She moved on, pushing past me into the kitchen, her annoyance a shield. But for me, the query was still running. Her explanation was noise, a buffer overflow designed to crash the system. It didn't. Her logic was flawed. A cat doesn't trigger 30 minutes of sustained, high-activity motion. A cat doesn't need to manually raise the thermostat. And her story about the blueprints was a critical error. She claimed she ran in, but the front door log was clean. She was lying. The question was no longer if, but how. I stopped sleeping. I sat in my office, the blue light of the monitors painting the walls as I became a digital ghost in my own home. I pulled the long-range data. I went back 1 week. Wednesday. 2:12 p.m. Master bedroom. Active. Duration, 32 minutes. I went back 2 weeks. Wednesday. 2:15 p.m. Active. Duration, 28 minutes. A pattern. My stomach went cold. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a cat. This was a schedule. I'm an engineer. I don't just see one sensor, I see the ecosystem. I cross-referenced the data streams. I pulled the smart thermostat logs. 2:15 p.m. last Wednesday. The temperature in the master bedroom, and only the master bedroom, was manually raised by 2 degrees. The HVAC log confirmed the command. The same thing happened the week before. The data was clear. Every Wednesday, someone was in my bedroom. They were active for 30 minutes. And they liked it warmer. This escalated things beyond a simple lie. This was a planned, recurring event. I started seeing her differently. Her behavior was now just more data to be analyzed. The way she was suddenly, almost aggressively, affectionate. She started asking about my day, listening in a way she hadn't in years, her head tilted, her eyes wide. It no longer felt like connection. It felt like compensation. A program running in the background to mask the primary operation. I needed physical data. The system could tell me what and when, but not who or why. I did something I have never done. I waited until she was in the shower. The sound of the water was a perfect audio mask. Her phone was useless, she'd never let it out of her sight. But her car. Her car wasn't smart. It was an analog data dump. I opened the glove compartment. Her usual chaos. Old napkins, dried-out pens, gas receipts. And a small, brown paper pharmacy bag, folded over, tucked under the owner's manual. Inside was a bottle of pills. Not a standard drugstore brand. A prescription. My hands were perfectly steady. I took a photo of the label. I put the bag back. Exactly as I'd found it. Later, when she was downstairs watching television, I sat in my office. I pulled up the photo. I searched the name. The screen filled with results. My hands went numb. They were prenatal vitamins. Expensive ones. The kind a doctor prescribes for high-risk pregnancies. It all clicked. The 30 minutes of sustained activity. The secret, recurring schedule. The lies. The sudden, desperate affection. She wasn't just having an affair. She was trying to get pregnant. With him. The temperature change. The exertion. It all pointed to one, unavoidable, biological conclusion. She was hiding a pregnancy. Or trying to start one. And I was paying for the house they were doing it in. I am not a man who acts on emotion. I am a man who builds a case. Today was Wednesday, the day the data anomaly was scheduled to recur. I prepared a full system audit. My movements were precise. I told Anna I had an all-day site inspection in Kyle. A mandatory hard hat and boots situation, no signal. It was a flawless lie, delivered over coffee. She kissed me goodbye. Her hand lingered on my chest. It felt calculated. A final performance before her matinee. I didn't go to Kyle. I drove 2 blocks away, parked on a quiet street, and opened the dashboard on my laptop. The car was silent. I watched the ecosystem of my house. 1 p.m. 2 p.m. I waited. Then, at 2:14 p.m., the notifications lit up the screen, one after another, exactly as the pattern predicted. Motion, active. Master bedroom. Thermostat, manual override. 72F, I had the complete data set. The initial lie about the blueprints. The recurring Wednesday schedule. The thermostat change. The prenatal vitamins. The data was undeniable. I let the sensor log another 10 minutes of activity, just to be certain. I was ready. I drove home. I entered through the garage, keypad entry. The house was silent. I went up the stairs, my steps measured. I was running the final diagnostics in my head. I expected a scene. Shouting. Clothes on the floor. I expected him. I was prepared to take a photo. To document. To control the narrative. I opened the door. And the program crashed. The room was empty. Except for Anna. She was alone. Curled up on top of the perfectly made comforter, the one I had noted last week for its pristine condition. She wasn't wearing lingerie. She wasn't preparing for a lover. She was wearing my old army jacket. The faded green one from the bottom of my closet, the one I haven't seen in 10 years. She was clutching it to her chest. And she was crying. A deep, silent, racking cry that didn't make a sound. The sensor, I realized, wasn't picking up exertion. It was picking up agony. The high-sensitivity, heat-based motion sensor was simply registering the small, repetitive spasms of someone weeping. She raised the thermostat because she was cold. A memory surfaced, one I had archived. She always gets cold when she's upset. My entire hypothesis collapsed. The who was her. The what was this. But, the vitamins. The prenatal vitamins. It was the last piece of data that didn't fit. My eyes went to the nightstand. There was a glass of water and a different bottle. A new prescription. Antidepressants. And then I saw the other bottle. The prenatal vitamins from her car. They were there, too. Next to a book on fertility. This wasn't an affair. This was a breakdown. The lies. The schedule. The vitamins. The jacket. The data was all correct, but my conclusion was a catastrophic failure. I was silent. My silence was a sound. She finally heard it over her own grief. Her head snapped up, her face a wet, blotchy mask of tears and shock. She saw me in the doorway, and her expression changed. It didn't just register me. It shattered. It wasn't relief. It wasn't guilt. It was a kind of cold, cornered horror. She wasn't just sad. She was caught. This was worse than an affair. This was exposure. She scrambled off the bed, clutching the jacket to her chest, as if it were a shield. Her voice was rough. She asked what I was doing home. I was supposed to be in Kyle. I didn't answer her question. My eyes were on the nightstand. The ecosystem of her grief. The antidepressants. The fertility book. The prenatal vitamins. The data didn't align. Life and despair, side by side. A program running two opposing commands at once. I pointed. My hand was steady. I pointed at the nightstand. I asked her what this was. She told me to get out. I didn't move. I am an engineer. I present my findings. I told her I knew the schedule. Every Wednesday. 2:14 p.m. I told her I knew about the thermostat. I told her I found the vitamins in her car. I told her, my voice flat, that I had built a case. I told her I thought she had a lover. Her laugh was the ugliest sound I had ever heard. It just broke. It was a sound of pure system failure. A lover, she repeated. Is that what my system told me? I just waited. She exploded. The truth came out, not in a confession, but in an attack. She said yes, the vitamins. She was trying. For 6 months. I was confused. The data didn't align. I told her we didn't. She screamed, exactly. We didn't. She told me I hadn't really touched her in a year. Not really. She said I analyzed her schedule but never looked at her face. She thought she was failing. She thought she was the variable I couldn't solve. She thought a baby would fix us. She thought it would fix me. She explained the thermostat. It wasn't for a lover. It wasn't for him. It was for her ovulation chart. She was trying to get pregnant by me, and I was so busy optimizing the network I didn't even notice. And then, last month, the doctor told her. It was too late. Early menopause. It was over. The vitamins were just leftovers. She looked at me, her eyes dead. She said the antidepressants were new. I was still processing. The affair hypothesis was deleted. This new data, it was a different kind of failure. I asked her about the jacket. Why my jacket? She looked down at the faded green fabric. Her voice dropped to a whisper. She said it was because she missed me. Not me, the man standing in the doorway. She missed the man who used to wear it. The man who existed before the ecosystem. The man who used to be her husband. And that's when my whole case, my perfect data, my entire logical world, just crashed. I hadn't been cheated on. I had been abandoned. Long ago. And I was the last to know. I stood in the doorway. The case I had built, my perfect, logical case, it was garbage. My data was 100% accurate, but my conclusion was 100% wrong. She wasn't the criminal. I was the failure. She was still crying, but quietly now. A low, spent sound. She was still clutching that old jacket. My jacket. The fabric was worn thin, a different shade of green than I remembered. It was the man I used to be she was clinging to. A ghost. I realized, with a cold, clean shock, that I was jealous of my own past. I looked at my phone, still in my hand. 2:45 p.m. The log was still running. Motion, active. The data was still correct, still streaming, still faithfully reporting the facts. My system had worked perfectly. It hadn't told me the truth. It had only told me the facts. There's a difference. I was learning that now. She asked me, her voice hollow, if I was happy. If I had finally caught her. I didn't know what to say. The engineer in me, the problem solver, had no protocol for this. This wasn't a faulty sensor. This was a failed marriage. I thought about the vitamins. The desperation. I thought about the thermostat. The sad, mechanical hope of it all. She had been building a case, too. A case for a family. And I was her unresponsive server. I was the system that was down. I walked over to my laptop. The one I'd brought in for the confrontation. The dashboard was still open. All the red alerts. All the proof of my own blindness. I did the only thing I knew how to do. I initiated a command. I found the logs for the past 3 weeks. The sensor data. The thermostat overrides. I found the entry from last week, the one where I called her a liar about the blueprints. I found the entry for today. 2:14 p.m. Active. I highlighted them. All of them. And I hit delete. She watched me. She didn't understand. I told her I was just cleaning the system. I went into the settings. I found the master bedroom sensor in the list. I disabled it. Permanently. I closed the laptop. The blue light from the screen vanished, making the room darker. I didn't know how to fix us. I didn't even know if there was an us left to fix. But I knew one thing. I was done collecting data. And that's the story. If you like this and want to keep hearing more stories like it, please be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new release. Remember, your support is fundamental in helping this channel continue to grow. So, what do you think? This whole thing started because Sam's data was 100% accurate. He just came to the wrong conclusion. But let's be honest. Is Sam the only one to blame here? Is his emotional neglect, as bad as it was, really an infidelity? Or is that just an excuse for Anna's destructive spiral of lies and manipulation? I want to know what you think. Who was the real villain in this story? Sam, for building a smart home but a dumb marriage? Or Anna, for choosing a complex web of lies instead of just talking to her husband? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.